Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth of a series of talks that are forming part of the launch of Bristol Housing Festival. We've been doing over the last week or so to complement the exhibition that's been down on the waterfront. So this evening's presentations are on social housing solutions through partnership. We've got some excellent speakers who I will introduce in a second, and basically going to get over to them to just talk about their approach to some of the challenges that Bristol's facing in terms of housing, some of the solutions that they're working through, and a little bit around kind of the partnership as a key aspect of getting things to work. So that's the main kind of thing for tonight. So we've got Ben Silvey, Director of YMCA Bristol. We have Jasper, Thompson, founder of Help Bristol's Homeless. And Jamie Gill, Partnership Director of 1625 People. We're speaking with Gaby Sethi from the OVO Foundation. So the format is each of those speakers will have kind of up to 20 minutes just to talk, and then we will be over to you guys really for questions. So we want to really get as much as we can from the conversation. The other talks have been really good in terms of that richness that's come from people's ideas and challenges to the speakers as well. So hopefully we'll get through that and get on to some good questions. And then after about half an hour of questions or so, Ben's kindly offered to show people around the new YMCA building next door. So we'll work out logistics on that as we get towards the end. Just to say, we are filming, streaming on Facebook, so it's only kind of looking at me. People are worried about being recorded, so don't rush the stage and you'll be fine. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. Other than just to say a couple of words about the Housing Festival itself. I'm sure people have seen the exhibition down the waterfront. If you haven't, then I recommend going to have a look. There's some really good different housing types, different models there. Jasper will be talking about one of the house types down there. There's also an exhibition as well, and that runs until the 4th. So there's still a few days to go and see that. So this evening's topic, social housing solutions through partnership, is really about kind of looking at some of the challenges in an age of austerity, which, contrary to recent reports, is not over. And finding new ways to create hope and pathways to recovery, or to help people before they become homeless. So I think with that, I'll hand over to Ben.
Sit on this table.
Yeah, stand that table on the table.
Yeah. It's a bit weird being, first of all, seeing your face just there the whole time and being on social media. But first of all, just to say welcome to the YMCA kitchen, which is our cafe here, which is Social Enterprise Cafe, which we opened in 2012. You're very welcome here. And I'll just say we're open 8 till 4, 7 days a week. Very nice lunches, coffees. Come and see us sometime. Yeah, I just want to tell you a bit about our story, really, it's the YMCA, and what we do here. So the cafe we opened, say 2012, it was about social enterprise, about giving young people opportunities for work, employment and training. We opened it really because I'm a youth worker, worked in the city for a long time, 20 years now, and wanted to create opportunities for young people that weren't funded by the government or the lottery or the usual kind of funders. We wanted to make our own money to be able to invest in young people. And so we started here in 2012. When we opened this, I spent a long time looking out of these red windows at a pile of yellow bricks, which was an old police headquarters building, dreaming about the next thing, which was about how could we do the same thing, but for young people who were homeless. So how can we provide accommodation for young people who were in crisis, but maybe found it difficult to access the council-funded system. So could we create a social business which provided safe, secure, nurturing accommodation for young people that wasn't funded by the usual routes? So we, I say we came up with a new idea of creating a commercial backpackers hostel with some beds for young people that are homeless. Actually, it's not a new idea. It's what YMCAs have done for the last 150 years. But they haven't been doing it for a while, so we pretended it was new, and we sort of, made out we were doing something innovative, but actually we stole a very old idea. But the crucial thing was we wanted to create these beds which for young people in crisis, that they didn't have to jump through all the hoops necessarily that were sometimes difficult to jump through, that lots of paperwork, if you couldn't quite tick all the boxes, it was harder to get housed, that as money from the government became less, the thresholds at which the local authority or the government could step in to help became higher. And so we were sort of experiencing through here and through talking to other agencies a sort of cohort of young people that were kind of struggling to get into some accommodation. So we thought, well, let's run a business which makes some money and means we can house these young people without having to jump through all those hoops. But actually, the most important thing of the sort of way we've developed the project really isn't the financial bit. I mean, that's what makes it work, and without that, we wouldn't be here. But actually, a really important part of the model is the social model, and that's that young people that come and stay with us who are homeless, who are maybe experiencing homelessness for the first time, maybe their tenancy's just broken down with a private landlord, maybe their relationship at home's broken down, maybe their relationship with their partner that they were sharing property with has broken down. They can come to us and they are staying in what essentially is a mixed community. So we've got in there, I don't know, on a given night we might have a group of school kids on an educational trip to Bristol, we might have some cliche Australian backpackers, we might have a family visiting Bristol from Germany who were with us last week who just doing the tourist thing. And then we've got young people who essentially are homeless. And if you walk into our ground floor, which we'll do later on, if we can all squeeze in there, there's a lot more people than I was expecting, which is amazing. You'll see that you've got an idea who's who, and everyone is anonymous and not attached to labels. This is the homeless person, this is the backpacker, this is the whoever. Everyone just sort of fits into a bit of a melee. So that's kind of I say we've opened it. That's sounds like we just did it like that. But actually behind that was a whole process of partnership, which is the key word of the title of today's presentation. So I've said partnership now, is that okay? That's in that box. But actually working with other people. But it's really a very long story. So I say we opened this and then I stared at that building. Actually the reality is I got the plans for that building emailed to me in 2008 by a colleague of mine who was working on developing this as a youth centre. And he said, you want to look at this building, it'd be great as a YMCA. And we had no money. In fact, we barely had a YMCA at that stage, and we had no idea how we were going to do anything. And in fact, we had quite a lot of debt, in fact, as a YMCA. But we wanted to do things differently. We wanted to try out different ways of helping young people. And so in the preceding 10 years, so we opened in January this year, preceding 10 years, we worked with a lot of people to get us to the point of being able to open what is a 97-bed hostel. It should have been 99, but the builders built 2 walls slightly too close together, so we couldn't fit the bunks in that particular room. A 97-bed hostel, of which 88 are commercial beds. That's a big number, and we have 9 bedrooms, 9 single bedrooms, and I'll hopefully show you one later on if there's one free to look at. Set aside permanently for young people who are homeless. And the idea was they'd come to us for a period of 6 weeks, around that period, some shorter, some slightly longer, and we could work with them over that time to either maybe work with families, carers to get them back home, or to work with the council or people like 1625, or to kind of find what the longer term housing might be. Actually, the reality is, since we open, young people are staying with us for a lot longer than 6 weeks because it's hard to find the move on accommodation. So anyway, we worked with lots of people to get this open. I spent a lot of my time having coffee with people and saying, we've got an idea, do you want to come and help us? And most people kind of slightly laughed in our face, but actually a lot of people said, there's a kind of an idea here which is good and we want to get involved, we want to help out. We bought the building in 2013. I say we bought it, sounds easy, doesn't it? Actually, it was quite easy, funnily enough. I stood on the roof of this building, they don't tell our landlords, but I stood on the roof of this building, looking at that building with my boss, and we had a romantic moment where I said, I really think we need to buy that building. Yeah, the sun was setting behind it, and it was a kind of moment where we just needed to take opportunity. And he went, yeah, I think you're right. And we went to the bank and said, we'd like to borrow £500,000 to buy a building, which we've got no idea what we're going to do with it, or how we're going to develop it, or what the cost is going to be. And for some reason they said yes, which to this day remains a massive mystery to me. But it was a very exciting moment. And we then set about spending 3 years raising money, and we worked in partnership with all sorts of people. We worked with Heritage Lottery Fund, with the local with City Council, with individuals, funders, all sorts of people who just came forward. Unite Student Housing, who just gave us loads of advice and help in terms of how we manage a building project. Business West, Destination Bristol, all sorts of people who kind of stepped up and went, do you know what, this we can help, we can do something. So that's our story as it is, and we're thinking about what's next. I have a very short attention span, and as you can probably tell from the way I'm speaking, and we've opened that now. We've opened in January. We've exceeded the expectations in terms of the commercial bit, so it works, it's all viable. We've had young people coming through who are homeless. Some have really surprised us in terms of their needs. Some have been really complicated. Some have just come and gone, and we've barely noticed. We've had young people who are trafficked. We've had young people who are working. We've had young people who are selling drugs to our commercial guests. We've had all sorts of things going on over there. But it's been an amazing experience, and it will continue to be amazing and difficult and problematic sometimes. But overall, I'll leave with amazing. But what's next? We've got these 9 beds. We've got young people who are having difficulty finding the next thing, and so we would like to build them some homes that they can afford. And the same stuff Jamie's talking about, and Jasper talking about the idea of not living in a hostel but having a home that you can afford to live in, and is good quality, and is something you're proud of, and is part of a community, and gives you the skills and the networks and the relationships to have a good life, to thrive. So that's what we're looking at, and I'll leave that as an idea. We've got more practical things on the go, but when we do the tour, I'll bore you some more with some of those details. So that's us.
So after all the speakers have been, I think we'll have time for some questions then, and then further with the tour as well. I'm sure lots of questions will occur. So can we have Jasper at B? So Jasper Thompson, founder of Help Bristol's Homeless. Over to you.
Yeah, they're on there.
Hi, good evening everybody.
Evening.
Okay, my name is Jasper Thompson. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I'm the founder of Help Bristol's Homeless. We're a community interest company. We're situated down in Bedminster. So January last year, my story is I decided to help the homeless all on my own. Got a rucksack on my back, have a couple of tiers like that over there, walk around the city centre and just basically helping as many people what I thought as far as I could do at the time. Socks, foot powder, all that kind of stuff, just the basic stuff. It was just something I wanted to do initially just to help people. It was never meant to be the monster it is now, which I've kind of created. So during my time on the streets with helping the homeless people, I used to ask them, what can I do to help you? And everybody used to say to me, a roof over my head. So it was something I didn't think we could do. With some thought, obviously, I was able to do that. So we formed the Facebook page called Help Bristol's Homeless. My wife came and joined me, then all my friends. In this story, I got lots of friends. And you are all my friends now. So I'll be taking all your numbers after this and phoning you all. So developed this Facebook page called Help Bristol's Homeless and just pinged it out to there. I had a restaurant on North Street in Bedminster, and I was inundated with donations of clothing, you name it, it was there. So one day I decided to put a shout out for a hub. I was in the army for 12 years, so I lived in shipping containers in Afghanistan, Iraq and all them places, but nothing as plush as these ones that we've done. So a friend of mine said to me, Jasper, I've got a caravan you can have. So I'm like, brilliant, where am I going to put it? So a property developer from South Bristol, Paul O'Brien, Rollo Homes, said, Jasper, put it on my site. So we put this caravan down there on the site and at Maligo Road in Bedminster. Okay? So from there, it was then our office. We had 4 guys living there at the time. It was our storeroom, it was everything. Now on that site, it used to be this Pringin Hill industrial estate. And it's got running water and electric. So that was quite a bit of a godsend, to be honest. So all the containers which we currently house on Spring Street, on Maligo Road, has running water and electric. All of the containers at the moment. So we have got 16 shipping containers down there, and I started off with 1 caravan. Okay, so now the caravan's been buried. The caravan, we got rid of it Monday morning because we no longer needed it. We have now got all the shipping containers we need for the time being. We're looking to do 20 shipping containers. So the guys on site, like I said, they have to be part of the project, like I haven't said, but they have to be part of the project in the sense that they've got to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, my military background, and get involved. You'll see lots of guys on the streets here, all they do is, when they can grab some sleep in the doorways, they'll grab some sleep, and then they wake up and wander around the street or sit in doorways. But our lads has a sense of purpose, because they have to be involved in the build of the shipping containers. Whether can they just paint, fetch and carry, but they have to do something. If they have other appointments throughout the day, we need to know what those appointments are. They get off and do those, but come back on site. So on the site now we have no alcohol, no drugs. So has anybody ever heard of a gypsy's warning? When they look at the ball and go, oh, you're doomed for tomorrow. So what happens to these guys on my site? Should they be caught drinking or drugs, they'll be banished, because I don't have no tolerance for drugs on site, because the rest of the guys on site want to get away from that, and they want to get away from alcohol. So we're trying to re-educate them, because they've lost a lot of their skill set, and we're trying to re-educate them to think, well, if I move into a block of flats in wherever, I can't do spice, I can't do heroin, I can't do this. So we're trying to reshape them, get their thought back, trace some thought back in of what's needed within the society to get back into society. So we have, day-to-day running on the site by one of the guys who was homeless. Some of you guys might have seen us on the TV. Paul was with us for a long while. He was homeless for about 13 years on the streets, living in a tent up in Clifton. He's now moved on somewhere else. We've got about 55 guys moved through our site. One got back in the army. People moved back home, re-engaged with their family. Guys have got jobs. So it's not just get on Jasper's site and get your head down. It doesn't work like that. Because we're engaged with lots of big companies who offer to take the guys on for apprenticeship if they're young enough. We've had lots of donations. OVO was one of the companies that gave us some money for some youth accommodation. So Ben, we can talk about moving them on to something like that. We will be building 2 shipping containers for young people. We've had guys who are 19, 18 years of age on site. It's a mixed site. We've got women and we've got men. Currently we haven't got any women, because we tend to try and get the women moved on as quickly as possible into other accommodation through other agencies. We work with Emmaus, we work with St. Mungo's where we can, we work with Bristol Drug Project, SAFA, Royal British Legion. I engage with everybody, So we're not just a one-man band out there, destined to save the world, all the homeless in Bristol, but we're doing our very best. Okay, so anybody who wants to engage with us, we're happy to come on board there and have them on board with us. So we're working with companies to build a new site, which is on Spring Street. So this is the help the council's given us. They've given us a piece of land on Spring Street, again, which is in Bedminster, for 5 years. Okay, so what we're trying to do is develop that piece of land now. It's a big warehouse. We're going to rip it down, and then we're going to turn it into living accommodation. Okay, so on that site we'll have 20 shipping containers. So hopefully I'll get back to that in a minute. So hopefully we'll have 20 shipping containers with guys living on that site. Men, women, older people, younger people. It'll be a mixed site, it's a gated community down there. Okay, I'm jumping and skip. There's so much to be told in the space of time that I've been going. You'd need an hour in here tonight for me to tell you what we've achieved in such a short space of time. We built our first shipping container in March last year, and we've got nearly 16 now. And I started off on my own, so imagine what we can do together, like myself, Ben, and other groups working together. I think using the shipping containers, one being offered a spot on the site down where Jez has organised, been fantastic for us, because people have come from out of town just to see our shipping containers. Trust me, they have. They've come from all over. We had a guy that came from Northern Ireland. He'd come to see our shipping containers, So it's a really great project. Got a gentleman there, he's come all the way down from London to see our shipping containers. We think it's a fantastic project, and we think it should roll out across the whole of Bristol. It's already been looked at in Nottingham, Plymouth, you name it, it's been looked at everywhere, by councils and other projects. Now, one of the ideas I've got, forget the slides. So that's our site down on Spring Street. You can see all our shipping containers. Lovely colours. We've kept the colours nice and bright and vibrant to, what's the word I'm looking for? Yes, Bristol. The colours of Totterdown and the other areas of Bristol with all the sites. So that's the bus. The bus we got a double-decker bus. It was given to us by First Bus Company. We converted it. Women downstairs, men upstairs. Sleeps 12 people. It's actually open tonight. It's lovely and warm. We've got proper heating in there. Lovely beds. Let's see if we can show you some beds. There you go. Beds in there. Everyone's got their own space. So that sleeps 12 people. So we can get 12 people off the street. Imagine if we had another 3 buses. One, say, central Bristol, and one over in Kingswood, St George or something like that. That's 30 people. That's could be taken off the streets at any one time. Plus our shipping containers, another 20. That's a lot of people. Get the microphone. Yeah, that's a lot of people. As a city we can help. If we all work together with it, and the council work together. They're there on the peripheral, but it needs groups like myself, Ben, and other groups to really get this going. So how I see the shipping containers working as well going forward. So that's how they start. They're all well insulated, all the plumbing done by qualified plumbers. That's the inside of the shipping containers. This one, I think, is currently down the docks there, down at the show. They're really nice. It's nicer than some people's flats. When people come in, that's one of the first, oh my God, this is nicer than my flat. So I think to myself, if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for them, I'm not going to make it the standard any less for the homeless guys to live in. So they've just fallen down on their luck. They're human beings. When the World War was on, everyone would rally around and help each other. So that's what we're looking for in Bristol, just to rally around and help each other in any way we can. So going forward on our new site, these are some of the companies who've worked with us. So one of the things I mentioned we're a community interest company, so we have to raise all our own funding. We get a lot of funding from people running up the hill, running down the hill, around the hill, and giving me the money. Okay? So that's how we're funded at the moment. However, we've applied for a charity, and we're on the list now, actually on the Charity Commission's desk, waiting for a charity number because people want to give us money. John Lewis's, they gave us a check. We did one of the containers with them. We've got a shop in Nelsey. That's one of the containers. With lots of volunteers, we get involved with all the schools. Sorry, it's flicking so fast, but we got involved with the schools. So what we like to do is go into assemblies and talk to school kids and tell them, when you see a homeless person on the street, don't be afraid. Because you see some horrific stories. Oh, I don't want my kids next to them. It's horrible. So we try and get to the kids before the parents, because they're the problem, okay? And get the kids educated, and the kids can go away. We've got lots of kids now involved in Help Bristol's Homeless. We've got an art auction, and they're coming up very shortly. And then the art auction, we've got kids art, and then we've got arts from people like Inky and all the big graffiti artists all around the city. That's been held next week, Thursday, to raise funding. So what you're looking at now is our new gated community, which will be our new gated community down at Spring Street in Bedminster. Okay? As you can see, we're looking for to do it pretty much to this artist's impression. We work with Burgess Salmon as our solicitors, Oregon, they're our planners and our designers, and we're looking to develop that. So that's Spring Street. And we're looking to move onto that location next year, March. I've had to skip through it, but there is a lot. If you ever want to come and see our site, we're down at Malaga Road, and it's on the site of the car wash. I'm happy for anybody to come in anytime and pick holes in it. Or car, put in that, get rid of you. So, if you want to ask me any questions after this, far away. We just have to keep this brief because there's other people who want to talk. Thank you very much.
Really interesting, fascinating stuff. I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of questions afterwards, so brace yourself for that. So now if I can ask Jamie Gill to come up. He's Partnership Director at 1625, and also Gaby Sethi from the OVO Foundation. We will be talking about two projects established in the Future Builders Programme, how Partnership can deliver affordable housing and employment opportunities for young people. Do you want one?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamie from 1625 Independent People, and we work with young people at homeless in Bristol and young people in care. And I'm here with Gaby Sethi, who's the head of OVO Foundation and looks after all of their corporate social responsibility. Today I wanted to really focus on two partnerships that we have with businesses that are rooted in Bristol, the Bristol businesses. And I wanted to focus on these two in particular because from day one, they're two businesses for me that have really shared the values in terms of what we're trying to achieve for young homeless people in the city. And I kind of knew from the day we met them, and it's been proven over the years that we've been working with Andrews and with OVO Foundation, that they really want to achieve something sustainable, something long-term. Their values are there and underpin everything they do. And I feel that the projects, the two projects we're going to talk about, really provide such a positive, tangible example of how we can involve everyone in the city in tackling social issues that we face. And that means we've got to work. We can't just work as charities, as public services, without involving the wider community, especially when you think that so many jobs out there, so many opportunities for young people are not in the public sector or the charity sector. We absolutely have to involve everyone, and these are two partnerships that really do that for me. I wanted just to set the context of the projects we can talk about within the wider services that 1625 provide in the city. So a large part of our work these days is around preventing homelessness for young people. We know that young people and our own children are likely to succeed best in life if they have a stable home environment and live at home and can live at home. So for some young people that's not possible, but we put a lot of energy these days into working with young people so where it's safe so that they can remain at home. We've got the Youth Maps project just around the corner from here, where we have council staff, social workers, housing officers and 1625 staff working together to help young people remain at home where it's safe to do so and encourage them to kind of move on once they can afford to do so and have got the skills and confidence to do that. We also run, as Jasper was mentioning, work in schools. We run a project of peer education where we have a coordinator that trains and supports young people that have been homeless to run workshops in schools across Bristol and South Gloucestershire to raise awareness about the realities of leaving home when you're not ready and to really encourage young people to get help early and encourage them to think about where they can get that help if they're struggling with relationships at home. Now, where we can't support young people to remain at home, we have access to a range of supported accommodation across the city. So we've got about 150 units of accommodation in shared housing as well as self-contained housing. And we also have high support projects where we've got 24/7 cover for young people until they're ready to move on to something less supported. But where we really struggle is in moving young people on from our projects. Young people really struggle in the city to access any accommodation, especially anything that's affordable. And I wanted just to get a sense of what people might think the average rent might be in Bristol, say, for a self-contained flat. Has anyone got any ideas? Ben, don't answer, I'm sure you know.
700 quid.
Yeah, about 780 quid. Yeah. And for a room in a shared house, average rent? Up. No, it's about 480 for average rent. And so the local housing allowance or housing benefit, as most people know, what do you think the rate is that young people can get help with for rent if, say, they're on a low income or if they're unemployed?
313.
313? Bit lower? 300 quid. So we have the Social Security Advisory Committee come to Bristol. They met with 20 of our young people to find out what the issues were in the city. And they actually, before they spoke to the young people, they did a little bit of research themselves and they couldn't find a single property that was available in the city for a young person at the local housing allowance. So we really know this is a key issue, is we've got to find ways for young people to access accommodation in the city, and I think we're all working together to try to make that happen. And it's within that context that we've been working with the OVO Foundation. Just to mention some of the other services we provide, regardless of what sort of housing young people are in. We've got specialist support for young people in relation to their mental health. We've got services supporting young people leaving care and leaving custody. That's the Future For Me project. We've got projects working with unaccompanied asylum-seeking children. We provide mentoring and peer support services so that young people can build relationships with other young people, healthy relationships with adults as well. And the OVO Foundation were key, just as they're supporting Jasper's project this year, I think. In past years, they've supported us to develop our mentoring projects so we can get community mentors out there working alongside young people. Service user involvement to us is all about young people taking control of their lives and helping shape our services at 1625. And the two key priorities, we've got a youth board that helps with our governance, and their two key priorities this year have been around mental health and around affordable housing and just creating new opportunities so young people can move on. We also provide support with education, employment and training, which you'll see is key to the two projects we're talking about. And we've got a new social impact bond, which aims to help young people leaving care into jobs and training. And we can ignore that slide and hand over to Gaby.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. I don't know how many people are familiar with OVO Energy, which is our you know who everyone is. Good, one person. So just as a bit of an introduction, we're one of the UK's leading energy suppliers, and we were set up about 10 years ago with an aim to do things differently and really disrupt the energy market. And so we've taken those same principles to OVO Foundation, which is our charity, which has been up and running now for about 3 or 4 years. So we initially set up OVO Foundation to tackle some of the issues that are on our doorstep. And we also have a really, really young workforce. So we have about 900 people who are in Bristol, and I would say 800 of them are under the age of 26. So you walk in and everyone is very, very young. And everyone really cares about youth homelessness, and particularly in Bristol, where it's something that they see on a daily basis. And so we always knew that we wanted to do something in this space, but we weren't exactly sure what it is we wanted to focus on. And so in 2015, we asked a university to do a piece of research into the root causes of youth homelessness, so that we could really work out exactly where we should direct our funding. So my background isn't in homelessness at all, so I was reading through this report, and one of the things that really struck me, which has come up a few times this evening, is how if a young person is ready to move on, they just can't do it, they're just trapped. And I just felt like that just seemed really, really unfair, and it seemed like such an obvious place for us to work. And from that point, we thought that our solution to homelessness would be if you provide a young person with access to employment or training and affordable housing, then that will really, really help them as they aim to break the cycle of homelessness. So there was a project that I saw that was in Birmingham, which took those principles, so the idea that a job, affordable housing, is the first step to independence. And I remember going to see someone at 1625 and saying, okay, I've seen this thing in Birmingham and I think it would be great if we could do something in Bristol. And she said, yeah, that sounds great, why don't you go to your board of trustees and talk about it as well? So I did, and I explained what I wanted to do, and they said, if you're able to make that work, you will be really, really lucky. I think they thought that we were just going to be asking far too much from charities and other organisations within Bristol. But we knew that we were onto something, and so we came up with this idea of Future Builders, which essentially provides young people with the opportunity to refurbish houses that they then go on to live in. So let's hop through to the next slide. There we go. So the project has a couple of different components, and each of them required us to get a different type of stakeholder involved. So what we really wanted to do was develop a programme where young people were able to gain skills and qualifications in construction, and then we wanted to make sure that they were able to put those skills to use by working with employers, gaining qualifications, which would hopefully enable them to access employment at the end of it. So we were working with SGS College in Filton, and they put together a kind of bespoke 12-week pre-apprenticeship construction course for the young people. Then we were also funding 1625, who are providing wraparound support for the young people who were on the programme. So it meant that they always had enough support around them. They were, they were going to college every single day. They were following up on all the things that they were supposed to be doing. So that was really, really important. And we had a great support worker there as well, who really encouraged the young people on the scheme. And then, crucially, we had the amazing support of Bristol City Council, who provided us with initially 2 semi-derelict houses. So these are properties that hadn't been lived in for a couple of years. They were quite run down, and OVO Foundation then provided the capital to renovate those houses. The council amazingly agreed to give us the properties on a peppercorn rent basis for a period of 7 years. And that has then enabled us to make sure that we're able to set the rent at a really, really affordable rate. So it's about £40 a week. And given what Jamie was saying earlier about, the average rent in Bristol, that's something that we're really proud of, and it's what makes the project so successful. And then finally, all of those factors combined should enable young people to access employment and ultimately independent living. And just one note about the houses as well. they're actually in really, really nice residential areas. So we've got one in St George, one in Hotwells, and 2 in Bedminster. But the idea was that we didn't want these to be, large or kind of large hostels. We really wanted to make it feel like it was a home for the young people. So I think there are about 3 or 4 bedrooms in each property. So it really helps to bring that sense of kind of family to life. I think we've probably covered most of these, but just to recap on what the main aims of the project are. So the first one really was to address the lack of appropriate move-on options for young people. The second was to support the transition from supported housing into independent living. The third was to give young people access to training and full-time employment at the end of their apprenticeship. And then the fourth was to develop a model to understand best practice, which could then be easily iterated, scaled and replicated. So I mentioned that in the first year of the project we had 2 properties, and then in the second year of the project the council very kindly gave us 2 more, so now we've got 4 properties in Bristol. And we've since taken the model to Sheffield as well, so we're working with another youth homelessness organisation there. There are a few changes that we've made to the project as we've learnt along the way from Bristol. So I think the main thing that we've changed is around the construction-focused training element. So it seemed as though we were not necessarily pigeonholing people into a path in construction, but we just felt that we wanted to give people the option to choose exactly what it was that they went into afterwards. So now we're offering traineeships where young people will learn kind of the basics in maths and English, and then that will open up a number of different career paths to them. So that's what's happening in Sheffield at the moment, and we've learned from that, and so we're doing it in Bristol as well. But I think that's one of the main kind of positives about the whole scheme, and with working with 1625 as well. It's definitely been a live and learn process, and there are probably things that there are definitely things that we would do differently if we were starting all over again. But we have a really good relationship with all of our partners, which means that we're able to have quite open conversations about what's going well, what's maybe not going so well, and it's really a joint effort to try and produce the best possible outcomes for young people. So these are some of the images. I don't know if you can see them from far away, but the majority of so the kind of more of the cosmetic work was undertaken by the young people, but we did also have contractors who replaced the roof and things like that, things that we wouldn't expect people to be able to do after just a few weeks at college. And then I'm going to pass over to Jamie again just to talk about some of the outcomes of the project and also fill in any bits that I might have missed.
So, of the young people that we took on for the training in the Bristol project up until last year, we had 14 young people complete the training. Of those, 6 moved on into employment and 5 sustained their employment for 12 months or more, and 3 young people moved on from the training into further training and education. We renovated, as Gaby said, 4 properties, housing 12 young people, and all the 3 young people that moved on up until then have all moved on positively. So but really what sits behind it is the people we work with at OVO, and I guess with both OVO and Andrews, what's made it work is people and its relationships, and it's the fact that regardless of our backgrounds, we're here because we share some values, and we want to make things happen in Bristol, and that's the kind of businesses that OVO and Andrews are. I'd now like to talk about another partnership we have with Andrews. Have people heard of Andrews Estate Agents? Yeah, well they're actually a property group, and that also has surveyors, and they rent houses. You know, they're a lettings agent as well as they have surveyors and other people. But what not many people know, most people don't know, is that they were set up 70 years ago by a man called Cecil Jackson Cole, and he's the inspiration behind our partnership with Andrews. He was a social entrepreneur. He began in Oxford. He was involved in setting up a small charity. That charity then became Oxfam, and he was the man that first brought to Britain the images that we're now so familiar with of children and people in other parts of the world who are facing such starvation and desperation. The unusual thing about Andrews is that he set up the business to fund the charity, the charitable work. So he set up Andrews Charitable Trust, and 100% of the profits from Andrews goes into their charitable work. And they don't shout about it, but what they really wanted to do through this project, they searched long and hard about how they could engage their staff in the core values that they have as a business in terms of supporting their charities work. And being a property business, what they landed upon after much soul searching was the idea of buying houses for young people leaving care and then providing them to initially to 1625 in Bristol, but now that's moved over into the south of London, to Croydon and Sutton, to another charity called Caish. And then we provide the support to the young people, and Andrew's staff are involved in finding the properties, funding refurbishments, much as OVO Foundation do, and acting as mentors to the young people that we work with. And it's just an amazing project, and I think with both projects what's underpinned it is the real desire to research and think long and hard about how they want to make a difference and not to duplicate stuff that's already there, and find their way of helping us to help young people to succeed. So in terms of it being a sustainable partnership, their ambition is to provide 50 houses over 50 years for young people leaving care and other vulnerable young people. So they've got two. We've got one in Bristol, one finished near London in Sutton, one being developed in Croydon, and we're just looking for a property now with Andrews in South Gloucestershire to house 3 or 4 care leavers. And I think that's all covered by what I said. Is really, as with the OVO project, there's a real focus on providing affordable accommodation alongside support for young people to access employment. And there's nothing Andrews would like to see more than the young people we work with being employed by them or with with other businesses and employers in the city. We've actually had one young person recently employed at Andrews, and we've got one of their staff who was a care leaver himself, now mentoring one of our young people. And now I just wanted to explore a bit with Gaby about have we got any time left, or should we just move? Yeah? Is what's been important to us about the partnerships, I guess, that we've been working on. I don't know if you've got anything to say. We haven't prepared this, by the way.
I guess I just would recap what I said earlier about, for us, one of the most important things was really being able to see the impact that we were having in the city. So to be able to support something with young people and work closely with the charity that is literally, a 5-minute walk away is really, really important to us. We've also been able to get our employees involved in parts of the refurbishment. So one of the properties they did at the garden, and then we had a whole Christmas collection where they collected all of the items to kind of furnish the houses as well. So I think it's given them a real sense of pride in working for OVO as well, and just to be able to see something quite tangible has been really important. And I think the second great bit about the partnership is just really being able to feel like we're able to provide input and really add value to what 1625 is already doing as well. I think historically, with lots of corporate funders, you often end up just kind of handing money across to a charity with having no real idea where the money is going, just kind of keeping your fingers crossed for a nice report at the end of the year. But actually to be able to have control over what it is we're doing and really be able to provide strategic input into the direction of the project has been great, and it's been a massive learning curve, but something that, again, we're really, really proud to support.
And I'll just add it. Really, what I've said before. Really, it is the people that make the difference, and it's we that have to make the difference in the city. And it doesn't matter what your background is, what kind of sector you're from. You know, we all need to play our part. And I think the two partnerships really give a tangible example of how businesses can play a role in making a difference for young people, particularly young people who've had a really bad start in life, and yet we know, and we firmly believe in young people need to know that they've got absolutely everything to succeed and achieve in life if we give them the right chance. So, thank you.
Thank you. So I think we'll push the button on that.
That's right.
They'll work back in a second. There might be a short delay. So I think now, yes, I'll do it. Over to questions really. So if I can ask the speakers maybe to kind of loiter up here, if that's all right. Loiter, lean on the table. This is all very slick. So if you guys want to come to that side of me, so you're in shot. And so really, I think I'm keen to kind of just start a conversation. I think we've seen some really interesting examples of kind of very practical, very kind of inspiring solutions. I've got a few questions around, kind of understanding kind of what next. Also, a few of you are kind of saying around what you do differently. I think I'm quite interested in some of that. But I think to start with, are there any questions from the audience to any of our speakers, just to kind of start the conversation going? We've already got the one mic again, so if you don't mind projecting, or you
No, sure. This is a question for Jasper. I work with men who've sustained brain injury and personality change because of that. I've got one guy who's really difficult, who's got a social handicap. He's a lovely man, but his personality has been changed because of the trauma he's experienced in one way or another. He's an ex-army guy. And I'm just wondering, he's at the moment, he's caught in a cycle of drinking drunk. Now I completely get that you don't want any on your project. Is there any way that you transition people, or they come and you sense that, okay, they're not ready now, but maybe at some point they will, and when they are, they can come to you?
So what we're trying to do, companies like, organisations such as SAFA and the Royal British Legion, I've put it to them that the site is big enough for them to have a container. So if they paid for a container and developed it, we would be able to have people like that on our site, providing we have the support from them. So they would have to, provide the day-to-day support of someone like that, making sure he gets all his treatment and be where he needs to be throughout the week or throughout the year. So it's not outside of our realm to have someone like that. We would quite happily have somebody like that on site if we had the support, because we are, we'd say a small organisation.
No, but part of my thing is I arrange stuff like that.
Right, so if for instance then SAFA had a container on the site, or your organisation had a site, and were able to support that person on a daily basis, it's not an issue.
There's one other thing. I've got a guy who's he's really been in some hotspots all around the world, military intelligence, counter-espionage, the real deal. But when you meet him, he's totally unarmed. He's totally into fitness and healthy living, and he's developing a thing called street gym. Would you be interested in linking up with us?
Absolutely, we're happy to work with anybody who want to work with us.
It's using everyday environment to get fit. Benches, pavements, trees, whatever.
I think I know of it. I think I've heard about it.
A guy called John.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it, street gym?
Yeah.
You can look it up.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Motion to mind.
Okay, you talk after.
Fantastic. So partnership making in action, it's good. Are there any other questions? Yes, Chuck.
Really encouraging to hear everybody's stories. I'm just interested in anybody actually, how you see your engagement with the housing festival. Is this something that excites you? What kind of imagination with respect to what's happening now in the system? this.
Yeah, I'm just totally thrilled by what Jez and the team have done. It's put a real focus on the fact that we all have to play a part, but also we all have to be willing to take risks. Is something that's been talked a lot about, and we are all taking risks because we're trying new approaches. And I think the festival's just really put the mark down in hopefully galvanising the city to continue with some of the innovation that's been going on, some of which you've heard about today, some in other talks. So it's just, I think it's absolutely amazing that the festival has provided that focus, but we don't want it to let off. So we're already talking about how do we take these projects forward to the next level, but it's just so grateful for the work that you've all done.
I think the other thing that I think is inspiring about the housing festival is it's not just about building houses. So it's not, the conversation we've had in Bristol for a long time is about how do we build more houses, how many thousand a year we've got to build. But actually, I think this concept of how we build communities and how we give people the ability to live well, and that it's about people, and that resonates with what we're all trying to do in this room, and I think is a great. It takes the conversation to the next sort of step, I think.
I think just also to kind of remind people, this is just the launch bit. We're only in kind of like week 2 of 5 years, so I think that's fantastic, just in terms of the opportunity it gives to kind of get some great examples tried and tested. So you think about what Jasper's achieved in a year. You look five years ahead. Who knows what you'd be, how quickly you'd have to talk to get through it in 5 years. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to both share some of the stuff that's working really well at the moment and kind of help people kind of learn from each other, the stuff that works, the stuff that doesn't work, but also to be able to put some focus onto it with a good amount of time to be able to kind of get some of these things scaled up as well. So I think it's a good question. I think it's it's a fantastic opportunity. Are there any other questions from anyone? Yes, David.
Yeah, it's sort of an observation as well as a question. I'm kind of moved and humbled to see so many examples, and I'm sure there are more. And I'm thinking about sort of how this has all come about. And obviously not everybody who's homeless is housed yet, because we see lots of them. But I'm sort of thinking in my head how this could, in the absence of actual government, how communities could provide housing and work and apprenticeships and so on. And it feels like there's the energies there, the ideas are there, they're being presented together, and it just needs some kind of knitting together, some more integration, and you could have something quite resilient in the space of a few years. So the question is, am I seeing that right? And can that be what the festival is doing? I'd like to hear from Jez as well, actually. If that's not unreasonable.
No, I don't mind saying that. So I'm Jez, and can I just say a couple of quick things in terms of thanks on this as well, because Gaby, bless her, came out from London for tonight, so Gaby, thank you very much for that. Jamie was speaking last night for us, so Jamie, thank you for that. Ben has hosted us and provided us with refreshments tonight, so thank you for that. Nick's been at all of these talks chairing them for us, so we've got one more to go tomorrow, thank you for that. Jasper's got his unit down at the site, down at the waterfront. If you've not been down, I mean, what I love about what Jasper's done, it just shows when people have some courage and some willingness just to get stuck in what people can achieve. And so often I feel like the response we have is we look at government and we say, come on, why aren't they fixing this problem? And then we sort of look at the big house builders and we want to demonise them as though they're all bad people. It's just not that simple. And it's much more complex, it's much more nuanced, and each one of us is a key stakeholder in the city. And each one of us probably has some response that we can make. And if that is our culture as a city, we will actually come up with incredible solutions for other cities to follow. And Bristol is a city that I really believe can lead on that as a way of presenting these ideas actually to the rest of the country and perhaps to the rest of the world. In terms of, I suppose, my hope for the festival, I think we've got two things. Is that one, we need to be celebrating some of this incredible courage, innovation, expressions of creativity that are already happening, and it's happening in all sorts of places, and we're not actually very good always at sort of bringing it together and showing this sort of montage of these incredible things that are going on. So many of them, and I hope what you've picked up is so many of them have been enabled by also partnerships with City Council, because there's ways that the City Council have just dropped in a bit of land or dropped in some housing to sort of unlock people to then have resource to do things that are actually creating real lives and real hope for people. So that's really important. But I think the other challenge is, as we look at these, is some of it's about transitional homes, some of it's going to be about permanent homes, but some of it's about how we rethink and reimagine our systems, because we've got that real systemic failure in terms of the housing that we're bringing on, about how we've got a limited supply chain, about actually the type of housing that we're building in terms of understanding well-being and community. And so what I love about these expressions is, again, it's the point Ben makes. Actually, when we make the outcome of the housing we're building about people and community and well-being, we start to have a very different conversation about the types of housing and how we're building begins to be reimagined. And there we gather industry and politicians and every stakeholder within the city around how do we achieve these outcomes. And you know what I love about that is there will be loads of different expressions, because none of us all want to live in exactly the same home. But we let lots of things rise to the top, and they all carry these same values of what is it for people to live connected, resilient, healthy lives. And we've got an epidemic of loneliness. Well, I'm sure some of the way we're building homes is part of that. Male suicide is on the rise. I'm sure some of the way that and we talked about this the other night, we've celebrated our independence over our interdependence, and how do we learn again how to actually see homes as a key forefront in terms of our physical and mental health. Because when we divorce all these things and think it's just about building some walls and a roof, we start to forget actually that where we engage with each other and how we live in our homes is also our well-being. And so that's some of what these people are talking about tonight. That's what some of the other talks about. On the side down the waterfront, what we're saying to the city is that when we work together, when we agree on outcomes, let's try some stuff that's different. Let's socialise some of these ideas. Let's build real-world prototypes. This is what these people have done. They haven't just talked about it, they've got stuff done. And on the back of that, you get stories of real people say, hey, my life is different as a result of what these people have done. And then we learn, hey, you know what, we can do this together. And we need this testimony, we need this experience of people coming up through a system and going, there's hope. Because at the moment, some of the charities I volunteer with, what we're seeing is there is no hope. And when you get that, when you get a loss of hope, we actually have a real challenge for society. Because when there's hopelessness, people will start to feel disenfranchised and angry and resentful. And then we've got a very, very different challenge to fix. So I want to honour these people, because I've come along late to this party, and I apologise for that. These people have been working hard at it, and some of these visions and some of these dreams started several years ago, some have happened incredibly quickly. But we're all responsible. It's time for us all to say, okay, well, what is it that I can do? What's my response? And what I'm seeing is actually we all want to be part of that good news story, because Bristol's a city that most of us are very proud of. It's an incredible city. Well, let's make it an incredible model as well about what people can do to really fix these challenges that we face, because there's great opportunities there. Thank you.
Nice comprehensive answer for you. Yes, lady.
Thank you.
Thank you for your talks. It's really lovely to hear what you're doing. I've been supported accommodation myself. I'm 31. I've just been faced with a really hard decision that I need to give my dog. I've had my dog for 7 years, and I need to give him up in order to stay in the housing that I'm in. I've been desperate to find a way out of. I've been in this accommodation for over a year. I keep getting told I'm not ready to move on. And I found, like what you were saying about the rent, like I've been desperately searching for somewhere that, that I could move. And I've not, I was just wondering, is there any organisations that helps people that are over 25 with moving on with life from, going backwards sort of thing. So yeah, does anyone know if there's any sort of extra help with accommodation for people that are over 25 and looking to move on?
See, we're a homeless charity, so you're not homeless.
No.
So it's difficult for us to help you. Our aim is to help people up, to come off the streets and move into accommodation. If you were homeless, then we'd be able to help you.
Yeah.
But we can. See, what I like about our project, what I would love is someone with some money to do some real affordable housing out of shipping containers. Because if you come to our site and see these shipping containers, they might look like a shipping container. I've just come back from a company this evening who want to clad some of these shipping containers. They look just like a house, they'll fit in anywhere. We feel that this could be sociable housing, affordable houses. We feel that Bristol City Council should take this on and say, right, we can use this as affordable homes. People like yourself, the young people, and make it work. Because it's not that expensive to make one of these containers and get one of them ready, So it's, I don't know where you can go with it, with your situation, unfortunately, that, you're not homeless, and that's what we deal with at the moment. But we feel that a company should take this on and build some proper shipping containers which are affordable, so people like yourself and the students and other people can afford them.
In terms of your situation now, and needing help now, there are organisations out there, but depends on what your situation is. But it's a difficult situation in Bristol with housing. But if probably now is the context to kind of find out more. But I'll happily meet you to have a coffee and find out whether we can point in the direction of someone that could help.
We spoke a little bit beforehand, and I'm happy to continue the conversation afterwards as well. There are organisations that work with people over 25, 16, 25, obviously work with people up to 25, but we work with other agencies to spend those and maybe have a quick chat afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for presenting your projects. It's good that you're being proactive in this. Gaby, I'm really interested in the partnership with the training. My name's Jo Kelly, and I'm an architect by training, and previously was an outdoor education tutor for kids with sort of school exclusion projects. We're in the process of setting up a housing cooperative in Bristol, and we're looking at quite ambitious projects on renovating existing buildings, not necessarily building new buildings, because there's such a massive housing, there's such a lot of stock in Bristol which isn't being properly utilised, which strikes me as now basically I think I'm sort of doing a bit of a pitch if anybody wants to kind of help us out in that. But it's actually an existing network of housing cooperatives within Bristol. There's 8 of them which have been going since the 70s. And the model of the housing cooperative is that the existing housing cooperatives can refinance to then help set up other cooperative housing, which is then self-managed by the members who live within that housing. Now this is a replicable model, which then doesn't have any additional funding which has to come into it, and it's usually self-managed by the funders. And I'm actually trying to get this rolling at the starting stages is where we're slightly struggling, because we need to get the deposit for the building, and then we're off and running. So basically, if anybody in the room is either up for becoming a member and being a part of it, we're not looking at any demographic or any income or situation. It's people who decide to live together and have this ethnic ethos costs of not actually owning your own property. Because even if you can build something which is affordable to buy, you're looking at private ownership. And if you're looking at rent, then and you've got affordable rent where you are, you're still going out and you're going back into the main world where the rent is, but it is like 600 quid for a room. So there's nobody talking about rent caps. What is an acceptable level of rent which private landlords shouldn't be able to like charge over, and which is a real issue. You know, in Glasgow you can still rent rooms for sort of 250, 300 quid a month in shared houses, and that's brilliant. It supports the artistic and the young community and makes Bristol keep Bristol vibrant and creative. But if you're charging like such huge amounts for room rents, then the people who make it interesting aren't going to be able to afford you, and you're not actually getting to the root of the problem. And then ultimately you want charities. It's great that folk are supporting homeless people, but ultimately you don't want anybody to be homeless that needs to be supported. And it's just how do we get to that point rather than kind of actually dealing with get to the root of the problem rather than just sort of dealing with the outfall of it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. Jamie and I were just talking about something similar earlier, because I think the kind of restrictions with our model is that historically we've been reliant on councils having derelict properties that they are happy to give us for a period of time. But as we expand the project across the country, we're finding that local authorities just don't have any housing stock. So we're really trying to think about what are the main principles of the model. It is about affordable housing, it is about getting people into work. How can we maintain those two principles but explore other models for delivering the housing component? So Jamie and I are actually going to meet next week to talk about how we might make that work in Bristol as well. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge for us, and we're going to have to start not necessarily from scratch, but we're going to have to put some real thought into it.
There's an opportunity at the moment as local authorities start building more houses, so the cap on borrowing being lifted last week, this week, whatever it happened this week. Actually, because the reality is that property affordability is about land costs and availability. Actually, and the only people that are probably willing to give away property are institutional landowners that are local authorities. Those people. Actually, maybe there's an opportunity where as councils build more, that they can build these sorts of things into their bigger schemes. We were talking about before we started that as they build 300 houses here or there, that some of those can be affordable, can be ultra affordable, however you want to define it.
I might ask a question myself if that's okay. So I think you all kind of touched on, I guess you were kind of reflecting on your projects, which I thought was really interesting in terms of kind of looking back and saying how you got to where you are now. And I think inspiring people in the room to say, actually, I want to go and do something in this area, or I want to kind of set up my own kind of initiative around housing. Kind of what would you do differently if you're starting over? What would you kind of tell someone who's setting out to try to kind of tackle this really tricky kind of wicked problem? Actually, what are your kind of top tips on if you're starting again? People are puzzling on it and someone's ready. John.
I think when we started with the idea of the hostel, I very deliberately kept my head down. A few years ago, I'd started working on another slightly harebrained scheme, which hadn't really come to anything. And I found, as I told people about it, they sort of told me why it wouldn't work. Actually, all right. But that meant with this one, I basically kept my head down and just thought, people can tell me why it's not going to work, so I'm just going to get on with it. And in some ways, I think I was good, and I'd encourage you, if you've got kind of a harebrained scheme, then do listen to other people, but also do pursue it, because you probably know better than the people that are giving you advice. But actually, that's probably the one regret with this, is we didn't engage with partners earlier on. So we talked a lot with funders and a lot with people who could help us build it, and we didn't talk a lot with Jamie or with Smungos or with other people who are kind of doing homelessness stuff in Bristol. And actually, I think we were the poorer for that when we opened. We started that too late in the game. We not too late. We started it late in the game, and we've had to catch up very quickly. And now it's it's like great, but actually I think we'd done much better if we'd been much more kind of head up and outward looking as we develop the whole thing.
Any reflections? I don't know if you've had time to think in the last year or so, but
Do you know what? I wouldn't do anything any different from what I've done. Because what I find within the city is too much talking. People are always just chatting about it. I mean, what Jez has done has been fantastic to put this on, to get people, let's get cracking. What we've done, I didn't engage anybody else. I just had an idea in my mind and just cracked on with it. Because someone will go, hang on a minute, can't do that. Hang on a minute, let's sit down, let's discuss it. You've got time to sit down and discuss it. People freezing on the street, dying on the street. We just got to crack on with it, really. Don't break any rules, don't break any laws. Just get on with it. So I wouldn't have done anything differently.
So one of the housing guys in the front, I think the second talk, he said, just do it and ask for forgiveness later. I thought that was a really good point.
I think that in terms of working with 2 projects with Andrews and with OVO Foundation, I just knew almost from in my heart from the beginning that it was gonna work well. It was because of the people, because I just knew that we shared a commitment to certain principles of how we were going to work together. So in that, and part of that is about the willingness to learn and the willingness to be transparent and the willingness to develop and change over time. So I think if you get the right people together or the right organisations together, then you adapt as things develop and you learn on the way, which hopefully avoids the need to go back and think, I wish I hadn't done it that way, because it was a necessary step from which we learn as we go along, and then we develop and we get stronger and stronger model, as we will begin to do on Wednesday.
Sorry, can I just say one more thing? Just with regards to this housing, what Jez and the council put on, I don't give the council credit for very much at all. But I think this is a fantastic idea, and what Marvin did, the one thing he done was bringing those mayors to Bristol. It was a flipping fantastic idea, really great idea, because we've had 3 different mayors from that delegate come down to us, Joris and a couple of others as well, and they really love the project that we're doing. Okay, but prior to this, we've been invited as HBH to do this project, building these shipping containers in Toronto, in Canada, and partnership with Toronto. They've actually invited me over there to do that. So what Jez and the council's done is propelled Bristol, right into the limelight with this. And I think it's a fantastic, Jez, take a bow, son. I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's really launched the city, and I really hope we don't have to talk about this again. Let's get some of these ideas which have come to the city, and let's just get them done. Someone just got to have a bit of backbone up on College Green there and go, right, let's get this done, and just do it. That's how I see it. Well done, Jez.
I think that's probably quite a good summing up. Unless there's really any burning questions, I don't think I could have done a better job. So, is that a burning question?
No, it's one last, and it relates to what Joe was saying, and the idea of that dealing with homelessness is like the catching the bottom, but there's a question over there that was, what do we do for people who are actually already in housing that need more support and so on? And what Joe was saying with your co-op group, there's a group in Germany called, you probably know about the Miethäuser Syndikat, which is German for rental housing syndicate. And it's a network of apartment blocks that are co-ops that take commercial housing out of being commercial for-profit rip-off housing and turn it into community-owned housing units.
Yeah, but that's because of the law there is different.
Well, can't we change that? Well,
We work that, and that's great. And one of the questions I want to ask is, if you want to move people on, do you have links on the continent, like in Germany, where there really are deep thinkers and they've got the same problem there, and they create social initiatives. It's not just about housing, as you say. Once you get the house, you've got to get the job, and so they're creating people from the initiatives to create real initiatives that people join. So you've got a stream of people passing through. Like they create restaurants, they create car parks, scrapyard, building teams, whatever. But they've got people coming through to work, streaming through apprenticeships. That's what the Germans do. Amazing, and the Dutch. So if you can link up with them, then you've got a next step model of where to go with these young people. Because otherwise, you get them in the house and they get cosy, but you've got to step out of the room sometimes.
And I think it all has to be about how you build communities. And I think you're right. Work is really important. Jobs are really important. That's what we do in this cafe. We train people for work. But actually, what we really do is young people who have struggled to fit in other places come here, and actually not just young people. We've got volunteers of all ages come here and are part of something. They belong. They fit in. We look after them. We stand alongside them. They stand alongside us. They help us out. And actually, as we build houses and homes, how do we not only provide jobs, but actually get to the point where we don't need to have support workers and social workers and housing workers and key workers and youth workers and all things that I've been professionally trained in normally. But how do we get to the point where actually we have neighbours and friends and family, and I think that's the ultimate challenge. We talk about how do you build communities where people can thrive. That's our kind of strapline as an organisation, and that's it. If we're building houses that don't do that, then we're just sort of throwing bricks around.
I don't want to go over what we covered yesterday, but I'd really encourage you to look at Una Goldsworthy's on Facebook talk last night, because she travelled around the world and she brought ideas back, and we're now picking up on at least 2 of those ideas, I hope, in Bristol going forwards. And they are about, as Ben says, around building communities, bringing people together from different backgrounds, providing affordable housing, but most importantly, bringing people together so that they can better self-manage the accommodation they've got as a group of young people and develop their skills and support each other, rather than, as you say, have key workers or other people doing it. So it is on Facebook. Una Goldsworthy talk last night. I'd really recommend it.
Great, thank you. I think I'm going to draw things to a close there. So if you'd like to thank our speakers. Also like to thank Ben and YMCA for hosting this evening. Really appreciated, great space. You've got your tour now, so I don't know how, do you want people to kind of loiter, or where do you want to meet?
I mean,
what's the plan?
I've got absolutely no idea.
Okay.
Why don't we, if you want to come on a tour, come out in the yard and meet me out there, and we'll go to the hostel, and we'll maybe just split a couple of groups and look around.
Okay. I'd also like to say a big thank you to everyone who's come as well. Thank you for your great questions as always. It's what makes the evenings work, really, is having that kind of conversation. So thank you very much.